Hello, welcome to Pause for Faith. Good to be with you, and just let me set everything up here. Great. Very nice to have this time with you. The topic is, what is it like to meet yourself? What is it like to meet yourself? So to reflect on this, it's a slightly obscure question. That's fine. You'll see where I'm going with this, I hope. And just, if you are watching live, this is a Lenten reflection. Basically, it's yesterday's sermon expanded. But if you're watching this video later on, I hope it's helpful, because it's all about what does it mean to go on a journey to meet the Lord, to meet others, and to meet especially ourselves, myself. So I hope this will be helpful whenever you're listening to it, but especially for those of us who are just beginning this first week of Lent now. The obvious question whenever Lent starts, how many times have I been asked this in the last 6 days? You know, I live here with 50 students in this hall of residence, Newman House chaplaincy. Well, every second hour, it seems, the students been asking me, well, Father Stephen, what are you doing for Lent? What are you doing for Lent? And it's a good question. You might not want to answer it. There's no obligation to tell other people. But it's a good question in terms of the Lenten disciplines of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. That's the traditions, the disciplines. What are you doing? Each one of us to ask that question. And if you know someone well enough, why not have fun and say to them, well, tell me what you're doing. Inspire me. Let me see what you're doing. Let me see if I can learn from it. And in telling another what we're doing, not to show off, but just to share with someone we trust, it can encourage us, because they can say to us in 3 days' time, how's it going? Have you even started? So the question, what are you doing, is a good one, and it's an interesting one. But just to provoke you, let me say that the question, where are you going this Lent? Where are you going is more important than what are you doing? Because Lent is fundamentally a journey. We are going to, and in fact we are in, a different place for the 40 days of Lent. This is physical in the scripture readings that we've had today. Yesterday for Sunday, the first Sunday, year B of Lent. In the scripture readings, the first reading, Noah goes into his ark. He leaves the familiar world. He leaves the world, the reality around him, his home, the earth, the land, his crops, his friends, his neighbours. The ark rises on the sea, and going into the ark is a journey. He's in a different place now, this newly built ark. And then as the ark rises higher and higher and higher with the flood up the sea, he's physically taken on a journey, a very odd journey. It's wonderful to reflect on this. It's a vertical journey. There's not many vertical journeys we go up. Yes, there's Jesus ascending to heaven. There's Elijah in his chariot. There's some. Let's step out of the Bible. There's Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. There's Star Trek, Beam Me Up, Scotty. I mean, just the image of going up physically is an unusual journey to make, and it's full of spiritual significance. We're not going down, we're going up. So Noah goes up, he's on a journey. And jumping to the gospel, Jesus is on a journey. He's in the desert, the wilderness. And don't forget how he got there, I mean, where he came from, because we've just come from, in the gospel readings, the baptism of Jesus in the River Jordan. So he's in a place of abundance and health and life, the waters of the River Jordan. And he goes from this paradise into the wilderness. This is a time, a place of temptation and testing. It's a battle with Satan, which he wins triumphantly. But also, he's not alone. It's not just the two of them, like in a boxing match or something. He's there, the Lord, in this wonderful encounter with the angels of God, who show God's loving care and concern for Jesus. The angels of God are caring, are ministering for the Lord in the desert. He's not alone, he's not abandoned. And also the wild beasts. And in this context, in the desert, in the Bible, the wild beasts, they're not there to destroy or harm him. This is a wonderful reference, if you can remember, back to Isaiah chapter 11, that we hear so often at Christmas, when the prophet Isaiah prophesies a time of peace and reconciliation in the era of the Messiah, the promised one, when, you've heard this, I know, the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the young goat, the calf and the lion and the fatted cow together, and the little child shall lead them. Jesus is the innocent one going into the desert, yes, to do battle with the devil, but not to do battle with the wild animals, to make peace with them, to rediscover paradise with them. So, do you see that Lent is first of all, most importantly and symbolically, not about doing, but going. Noah going into his ark, going up on the waters, Jesus going into the wilderness, and then in that new sacred space, allowing things to happen that wouldn't happen otherwise. This is one of the keys to Lent. So if we're going on a great spiritual journey in the biblical tradition, and then certainly in the Christian tradition since then, it's much better if you can actually go somewhere physically. The wonderful tradition in many religions, and especially at the heart of Christianity, of retreats and pilgrimages. I hope you've had the opportunity sometime in your life, or that you will, to go on a retreat, to go on a pilgrimage, however small and local it is. Here at Newman House University Chaplaincy in central London, we've been so lucky that in normal times, pre-COVID, we're able to go to Worth Monastery, Worth Abbey, the wonderful Benedictine Abbey. We just go to London Bridge, get on a train to Three Bridges. We're there in 40 minutes. We're in the beautiful Sussex countryside, and we're living with the monks in their guest house, in St. Bruno's wonderful hospitality house there, eating their food, sharing their prayer in the beauty and the tranquility of the monastery. Twice a year we do that for 2 weekends. So we take about 60 students over 2 weekends. Then in the summer we go to Lourdes, 20, 25 of us, to help with the sick, but to go on pilgrimage to Lourdes, to that holy shrine. Many of us go to Walsingham. Hasn't been able to happen last year or this year. Well, sorry, this coming year, we don't know, but last summer. But many of us every summer would go to Walsingham with Youth 2000 on that wonderful youth festival. Many other retreats and pilgrimages, and even in COVID times, in slightly less lockdown, when we could meet in groups of 6, we went on in groups of 6 on this wonderful pilgrimage to the shrines of London, and we met St. John Henry Newman, St. Edward the Confessor, St. John Southworth, and so many others. So it's great if we can go on pilgrimage, on retreat, to physically be somewhere new, holy, that makes us think and reflect, and that gives us space. But if we can't, how do we go somewhere? Well, this is my point. We go somewhere this Lent by doing something. And in fact, each of the 3 Lenten disciplines that we do, that we physically do, is meant to be a practice that takes you somewhere so that you can have an encounter and meet another. Hold on to that. I'm going to open it up. Each of the 3 Lenten practices, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, it's not just something you do. It's meant to take you somewhere on a journey to meet another. We've had so much sad, difficult conversations, haven't we? All of us in society and families and friends, the last 12 months about loneliness and isolation, the loneliness and the isolation of lockdown. It is so true. And here this Lent, we're being given an opportunity to step out of that loneliness a little bit, not to solve it all, but to step out of that loneliness to help us to begin to overcome some of that isolation and loneliness. But maybe we haven't appreciated that yet. We've just thought, here, I've got to do these things. Right, let's look at each of them briefly and see what journey they're taking us on. The first one's the easiest. Prayer. Where does prayer take you? It takes you to meet God, obviously. The journey of prayer. You've committed, I hope, to some form of new or renewed practice of prayer. I'm going to try and do this every day or every week. Here's my Lenten prayer practice. Well, please remember, it's taking you to meet God. Or it should be. If it's not, something's wrong. Very often, we're not praying. So there's no judgment here. Just take this very lovingly and gently. But you may be someone who's struggling with prayer, or just hasn't been able to get into a good habit, or did once and it fell apart and it's too difficult now, or you don't know where to start, or you're too angry or upset with God, whatever the reason. So sometimes if we're not praying, then to pray in Lent is a great thing, clearly. But sometimes in life we are praying, but we're rushing our prayers, or we're on autopilot. We're trying to pray, but we're not really praying. We're not stopping to remember that we're praying to God. And so I hope that whatever prayer you're doing this Lent, it's not just something else to do, but it's an opportunity to remember the meaning of prayer, which is that we are meeting God, a God who is alive and who loves us, and that we're having some time with him and having some conversation with him in whatever form that takes. I've quoted this many times, but the first thing to do in prayer is to remember that we are with God. In fact, I think it was just a few days ago, I did a whole video about the remembrance of God, the practice of the presence of God. We can do 1,000 things in prayer, but if we haven't just stopped and remembered that we are actually praying to the living God, that we're with him and that he is with us, what is all that energy and those words meaning if we're not present to God? I've mentioned before Steve Hoyland, who was helping us with our week of guided prayer. He said to the students, when you begin your prayer, whatever it is, however long you have, his suggestion is you stand up and you remember that you are with God and that God is looking at you with love. Remember that you are with God and that God is looking at you with love. Just to say that to yourself and to kind of consciously remember it, that he's with you, that you're with him, and that you're actually praying to someone who's listening to you. You're opening your heart to someone who has a heart. You're not just speaking to a photograph. You're not just talking to the radio where it's just one way. You're speaking to the Lord and he's with you. So the journey of Lent to God, and maybe I don't need to say any more, part of Lent is praying and part of Lent is remembering that we are praying to a living, loving God that we are with. The second discipline, almsgiving. Almsgiving. Remember, almsgiving, it means some act of kindness to another, an act of charity, of love, of practical love, what we could have called, that we would call in a lovely traditional language, a corporal work of mercy. Someone needs my help and I'm going to help them. It might be giving money to a charity. It might be giving time to someone. It might be ringing someone who's lonely and we haven't spoken to. It might be offering to help and volunteer. Maybe you can't do that physically. Maybe you can virtually. It might be performing a duty that we haven't done and getting on with something that really should be our ordinary duties. But the important thing about almsgiving is that it is a defined thing. I'm going to do this thing. It's not just I'm going to try and be more loving. That's like saying, this Lent, I'm going to try and be more prayerful. Well, we should always try to be more prayerful, but I'm trying to do a specific prayer that I can name and write on a bit of paper and say, I'm going to do this. Did I do it? It's the same with almsgiving. Our Lenten disciplines, in other words, they should be, to use that lovely acronym, SMART. SMART. I can never remember all 5 letters. Yes, SMART. Something that's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Something like that. SMART. Basically, it's something that we can name and define, and I can ask myself, or someone can ask me later, okay, you said you'd do that. Did you actually do it? You said you'd ring up your mum once a week in Lent to be kind to her. You said you'd give £10 to charity each week. Did you do it? No, I didn't. I'll try a bit harder. Yes, I did. Thank goodness. It's not about earning brownie points. It's not about justifying yourself, but it's saying, I want my love to be practical. How can I do that? Okay, so let's just say you've chosen your almsgiving. What are you going to do? How's this a journey? Well, it's a journey to meet another person, your neighbour. It's a journey of love. I don't mean that necessarily you'll physically meet someone. You might, if it's ringing your mum up because you haven't been ringing her enough. Great. Or your daughter or son or your auntie or your lonely friend. Whatever it is, it might be an actual meeting with someone. So that's a journey and an encounter and a meeting. But it might be you have given some money to charity. But your money, hopefully, is actually helping someone real, a real person, maybe in 3 or 6 months' time. For you to be conscious that you're helping real people, you're not just giving to an abstract charity. To pray for the people in the charity who are administering your money, for the success of the charity, to pray for the people who are being helped by your charitable work. Do you see how Lent, almsgiving, is a journey to meet another person, to meet your neighbour? You're stepping out of your comfort zone. You're forcing yourself to step out of the security and safety of your own preoccupations, your own habits, lifestyle, the little circle you mix with, and you're consciously trying to be practical in loving someone else who needs your help and your service and your love. It's not patronizing, it's not condescending, it's just practical. I've got a little bit of extra time and money, and I want to be generous with it, and I want it to help someone else. But never forget, the point is, in order to help someone else. And for you to become more conscious of that this Lent, that it's a journey to meet another person, for you to think about the person you're meeting through your almsgiving, even if it's very indirect, for you to pray for them, for you to carry them in your heart, and in that way to grow not just in your practical love, but in the way it transforms you and it takes you out of yourself. And the lovely gift about this is, this isn't why you do it, but it does decrease your sense of isolation and loneliness, because it turns your attention outside. This is the paradox of isolation and loneliness. We start focusing on the loneliness and how alone I am and how upset I am and how everyone else has got friends. We pretend, we fantasize. It's not true, but we think it's true. But the beautiful paradox about not solving loneliness and isolation, but trying to stop thinking about it so much and actively love others, is that it does solve it in a small way. It doesn't mean we suddenly have a best friend, or I'm longing to get married and I've found my husband or wife, but at least I've gone outside myself. I've stopped a little bit of self-pity maybe, which can creep in, and I'm thinking of others. What a blessing to them and a blessing to me. And fasting, how is this a journey? I give up Friday lunch, or I give up Facebook, or I give up smoking or drinking, or I give up tea or coffee, or whatever it is. How is this a journey? Who are you meeting? Well, fasting is a letting go. I let go of this food, snack, drink, this simple pleasure, this habit, this lifestyle, this social media, this Netflix account, whatever it is. I'm not doing it for the sake of suffering. There might be a little bit of suffering, a little bit of sacrifice. I'm doing it for the sake of letting go. Letting go, discovering a bit more freedom, a bit more detachment. And this is the key. It's not the only reason for fasting, but it's the key in the light of what I'm saying about the journey. I'm letting go in order to make space. To make space to meet myself. So is fasting a journey? Yes. You're making a space. You're moving away this bit of food, money, time, pleasure, luxury, habit, good habit, bad habit. Now, this isn't for the whole of life or the whole of Lent. It's just for a little bit of defined time or whatever. And I'm making space, and I'm stepping into that uncluttered space to meet myself. Because so often we don't know who we are. We don't meet ourselves. I don't meet myself. I don't spend time with myself. All the time I have, every free moment to think or feel or reflect or be still, every moment is stuffed full of stuff. With duties or work or noise or family, the responsibilities of family, the responsibilities of work, huge, especially for parents and carers. My life is stuffed full of work and distractions and worries. I have every sympathy here. I'm not judging anyone. It's also, though, let's be honest, stuffed full of distractions and noise and maybe pleasures. And pleasure is a beautiful thing, and luxuries. We're allowed one or two luxuries. But you see how we can fill every space, every second, with the smartphone, with the noise, with the radio, with a conversation, with a distraction. And even when there's a bit of space, even if we don't want to, we fill it full with worry and distractedness, so that we're never just still or with a little bit of space, even for 2 minutes, let alone 10 or 20. Fasting, whatever form it is meant to make a little bit of space where we want to fill it up. Yeah, I want to look at my Facebook feed. I want to put the TV on. I want to eat another bar of chocolate. I want to open that second bottle of wine. Whatever it is, but I'm just for a little bit, maybe for 10 minutes, maybe for one meal, maybe for one evening. I'm just going to say to myself, hang on. And then I'm with myself. And I haven't noticed myself for ages. And isn't it weird? And I'm tempted to fill it up and fidget. But no, I'm with myself. And I'm just going to stay with myself and meet myself and see what comes up. The journey to meet myself. Now, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. A space to meet God, neighbour, and myself. What happens when we meet these three amazing people? That's not quite the right term, is it? When we meet God, when we meet our neighbour, when I meet myself, what happens then? My answer is, I don't know. And I'm certainly not going to tell you. I don't know. But that's the beautiful thing about Lent. To step into a space where we can begin or deepen a relationship with someone who is not ourself. You can think about what it means to meet yourself in a minute, and that we're not in control of. We can't control it all. I don't quite know what I'll find. And I have to be open to being surprised, open to let God speak to me, to let my neighbour speak to me, or the reality of their life teach me something. And yes, strangely, to meet myself and let myself speak to me. What is myself saying to me when I meet him or her? I know this is getting slightly muddled in terms of grammar and language, but I think it's true. When I spend time, I haven't for 10 years, say, with myself, and hear the thoughts and the dreams and the worries and the things that come up unexpectedly, beautiful things, maybe difficult things, but what do I say to myself that I wouldn't have heard otherwise? We're not in control. So it's not to give you a prescription or to say, oh, do this and you'll discover these wonderful things, or God will say this to you, or you'll become so much closer to your neighbour. I don't know. But I know that something important will happen if you allow this relationship to be genuine, if you go on this journey. I know that something important will happen because God is utterly loving and trustworthy and wants to say something beautiful and bring you into a relationship. Because your neighbour, especially the needs of your neighbour, will say something truthful to you, even if it opens up some difficulties or complications. And the same with yourself. If you're genuine, if you're being truthful, if you're making space, and if you're getting support, this is not therapy and deep sea diving, and just, it's not opening up wounds we can't deal with. It's just spending a little bit of time with ourselves and saying what's coming up, to trust yourself, to trust the relationship. I told the students in my sermon, I'll tell it you, I'm not going to tell you my whole Lenten practices, but just one of them is I'm trying not to use the smartphone or the laptop during Lent. I'll use it for emergencies or for an actual phone call, but just and this means that when I go upstairs, I'll use the computer here like I am now. But when I leave my office and go up to my flat upstairs, I don't have the computer, the digital, the Facebook, the social media, the internet news. I'm detoxing digitally when I go to my flat. What happened on Thursday night? I went up about 9 o'clock, switched the computer off, sat down, kicked my shoes off. What's the first thing I do? I reached for my phone in my pocket. And I looked at it. And I put it back. I thought, I'm not going to. And I was fidgeting. And I felt uncomfortable. And I wanted to think, it doesn't matter much. I just want to catch up. I need to relax. And I felt awkward and fidgety and outside my comfort zone. And I ended up reading a little bit of a magazine that was on the desk that I never read because I'm always fiddling with my phone. I put the radio on at 10 o'clock to listen to the 10 o'clock news on Radio 4. I prayed. Of course, I pray night prayer every night. That's part of my routine as a priest, but just I made a little bit of extra time to pray. Reading, listening to the radio, praying, sitting with myself, with my shoes off, without the phone. It was a strange and beautiful hour, and it's been repeated for 5-6 days now, and I've got into a new routine, and it feels like such a gift. It's just one example. I'm not saying this will work for you. Yeah. And look, I haven't said how, what way will you pray, fast, and give alms? I don't know. There are so many different ways of praying, really. I don't want to go through a big list, but just what simple discipline of prayer will I try? Will it be to pray a decade of the Rosary, to pray the Our Father in the morning, to pray night prayer, to watch an online mass, to just have 5 minutes silence, to read the gospel reading from the mass that day, to talk to God, to go for a walk and have a chat with the Lord. There's an infinite number of ways, but just to choose one thing. How will I give alms? Who knows? Choose something, to give some money, to give some time, to give some love. How will I fast? What little thing will I give up to make some space? Whatever you do, I encourage you. This beautiful journey to meet God, to meet your neighbour in love, and to meet yourself. I wish you a happy Lent. God bless you.